Hello and welcome to another episode of the Hooligan Report. I'm joined tonight by Cooksen,
Hello.
and I'm also joined by JD2010.
Hello.
We'll start with you, JD, because obviously it's been a pretty amazing season for Spurs so far, and you're up there as probably one of the last two sides still in the title race. How do you rate your chances, especially since you got that 2-0 win over Aston Villa?
Um, it's definitely, we probably are the only side that can knock off Leicester from here, but I would say it's very unlikely that they'll stuff up. Like, it's been 30 games now where we've expected it, and they just don't seem to drop points. So, I don't think it's very likely. We've got a pretty hard run coming up too. So, I think it'll just be good if, we just stay in it as long as possible and hope that, there is an unexpected result or two that goes our way. I think we need two results to go our way in the last 8. So it is, a lot harder than I think a lot of media experts think, and maybe even some posters on the forum think as well. We actually need them to stuff up twice. And after 30 games, I think they've only, what have they lost, 2 or 3 games this year?
Three games, yeah. It's interesting though, because obviously if you're still in touching distance going into the last couple of games of the season, they do have a pretty tough end to the season. I don't know what are your last 3 games?
I think we've got Newcastle to finish, and I think maybe Chelsea somewhere in there. I know the next few after Bournemouth are the real tough ones at United, who we haven't beaten at home for a while, and we go to Anfield.
Yeah, so it looks like
tough.
You've got Chelsea, Southampton, and Newcastle as your last 3.
Yeah, so I'm a bit more worried about, I think, the 3 before that. I think we go Stoke away as well. So that's, there's 3 games there that any other season I'd be happy if we got 4 points out of those 3 games, but that would, just ruin our chances altogether. I think we need to probably win 2 of those 3. I'm not too confident of that happening.
And it must be a pretty unique sort of situation to be in, because obviously you wouldn't really have expected to be top 4 going into this season necessarily. Maybe you had hopes of pushing into the top 4, but obviously you're now kind of ingrained in the top 4 and it's really about the title. What are your feelings towards Leicester? I mean, if they win the title, obviously you'll be upset that it wasn't you guys, but at the same time, was the title really on the agenda at the start of the season?
Yeah, look, I guess any season that we could finish top 4 is a pretty good effort in the Premier League, and then throw in there finishing above Arsenal, which hasn't happened in who knows how long. And you kind of can't look at it as it's Leicester, so it takes the gloss off all those things. If it was Leicester or Man City, at the end of the day, second and beating Arsenal and Chelsea and United, Liverpool, these are things that we would have taken halfway through the year, before the year. So, I guess I try and drum up a bit of a fake rivalry or hatred towards Leicester, wanting them to lose. But it is what it is. We're in a bit of the way I see it, it's a bit of a win-win. If we just keep going as we go and they don't drop points, well, we keep second spot and beat Arsenal. And if they do drop points, we're the ones there to probably put that pressure on to win the league. So, you can't really lose if you look at it like that. I know the Liverpool fans like to try and take the gloss off us if we do finish second, saying it's a disappointment. But I think that's more them deflecting their own disappointing season, really.
I mean, I saw that earlier today, and I don't really subscribe to it at all. I don't know how you can say Spurs, it's a massive failure by Spurs if they don't win the title, because it's
just because it's Leicester.
Just like I was saying on the board. I mean, if Leicester, for instance, the perfect comparison is the Championship at the moment. If we don't finish top 2, that's a failure, because Middlesbrough and other clubs have been losing games, dropping points, but so have we. Whereas Leicester haven't been losing games and dropping points as readily as in the Championship. So it's not as if you're not capitalising on their failure.
Yeah.
It's the fact that they keep winning.
I think it was
so
only
all you
once.
can do is keep pace.
Yeah, well, I think it was only the West Ham game, which we had a chance to close the gap on them. But that's been a bit disrespectful to West Ham if you expect to go there and just walk in get the 3 points there. I think they'll probably catch City for that fourth spot. So they're that's no mean feat for them as well. But yeah, I think apart from us, Leicester and probably West Ham, it's a failure of a season for most of the league, really. Maybe Bournemouth as well and Watford surviving, like they've achieved their targets, but I'd say the rest of the league would put their season down as a failure, really. And I think that's where it's coming from with Liverpool supporters, that it is a failure. They thought top four was where they should be, and they've sacked a manager. They've look unlikely to get that. So yeah, I guess Europa League's their last straw they can clutch to. And looking at Dortmund last week, bit smash us. I can't see how Liverpool can compete. But if they do get to the final and play them, the Klopp factor might see them over the edge. But yeah, I still think it's a deflection from those Liverpool supporters.
And speaking of clubs that have had a bit of a failure of a season, I should take that as a point to bring Cooksen in, because he's been sitting there listening in. Firstly, about the title race between Leicester and Spurs, who you think will win that, and then secondly, how you rate United's season.
Well, it's a 5-point gap with 8 games to go. Theoretically, Leicester just need, I think, like 14 more points to mathematically seal the title or something like that.
Yeah, it's probably something like that, yeah.
Don't quote me on that, so... yeah, it's pretty much 4 games, really. The next 4 games determine who wins the title. And Leicester are probably favourites for it. As for our season, I'd rate it as a massive failure. Failure in literally every way except for the fax machine busted and keeping De Gea and Martial.
Yeah, because I was going to say, what positives can you take out of this season? I mean, you've blooded a lot of youngsters.
Apart from Borthwick Jackson, positive.
Rashford.
Martial, positive. Rashford. That's about it, really. I mean,
with
players have been
disjointed.
We've probably, I would say, psychologically still haven't recovered from Shaw's injury, which was in September. I mean, it's just then chopping and changing of the team. No consistency means no match rhythm. Means just a collective of 11 people on the field, not a team. So
it looks like they've just no idea what style of football they want to play. Like, it's not out and out defensive, but it's definitely not attacking either. It's just kind of just like 11 guys just turned up on a Saturday and wearing the same shirts, just try and work it out themselves. So maybe the positive is that surely Van Gaal has to go at the end of this year, and they might finally get a manager that can fill Ferguson's shoes, I guess. And I guess the only person with a big enough ego to fill those shoes is Mourinho.
And also signing Latin as well.
Yeah, well, we should talk about that, because I was going to ask what sort of players you think Mourinho will bring in, and obviously probably the only man in the world that could get into an argument with the Eiffel Tower. Zlatan Ibrahimovic is presumably on his way.
Yep, get him in. Get Iber Griezmann or Aubameyang. Get
but how does that seem any different to what United tend to do? Like, you got Martial and Rashford, who are up-and-coming strikers. Does getting in and Ibrahimovic then just, stall those guys?
Getting them to play as wide forwards who can rotate around. Because we have... Lingard is a mech player, but realistically, if we're going for titles and Champions Leagues, he's not good enough. We need another midfielder.
Would Rooney be the one to go of that strike force, though, to accommodate him? Because for
Yeah,
Like, he'd have to be the one, really.
he'll be off to China. He'll be getting paid somewhere. I think I've heard rumours that it's about £500,000 a week.
Jeez.
Mm.
I had this thought the other night that surely the money in football is getting to breaking point. Surely there will come a point where, for a long time, the Premier League has kind of ruled the roost in terms of being able to offer the biggest salaries or some of the biggest salaries in the world, biggest transfer fees, etc. And now China's trying to top that. Sky will try and bring more money into the Premier League with the new deal to top that. Surely it comes a point. What happens when Sky goes bankrupt? And all of these clubs have all of these players on their books, and suddenly the next company comes in and says, "Oh, Sky, we're giving you 100 million. Oh, well, we can only afford 70 million." And all of the clubs suddenly go, "Oh, well, crap, how are we going to pay these players?" I mean,
I don't think it's a worry too much for Sky in England though, because they're offering this money because it is profitable still for them. They're making money.
Yeah, but it's profitable
on
still.
China,
but there's got to be a tipping point.
On China, though, there will be surely a tipping point there. They can't be paying these salaries with little to no interest around the world in what's going on there. Like, it is a bit of a circus, but no one's going to pay a subscription fee to watch. Not nobody, but I'd say less than 5% of football followers would pay money right now to go watch the Chinese league on TV.
And I guess they're banking on
the Premier League. The Premier League, you know, most people all over the world, even around Europe, they've got their local leagues, but that's the next one. So the money is there and the sponsorship's there, just because it is, you know, really pushing. They're the biggest global brands, I guess, as sporting teams now. Probably up there with the NBA teams, like.
I just look at it and look at the money involved and just can't help but think that there's got to come a point where it's going to be breaking point with the amount of money. It's just insane.
You got to think though. It's just the Premier League is the biggest league in America and Canada, big markets. It's a big league in Asia, massive markets.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything that really compares to it. Like. The NBA, it does have its popularity, but yeah, I don't know how you'd compare. Obviously, there's a heap of money in the US sports, but yeah, Sky's pretty smart with their bidding, and with BT now on board as well over there in the UK. They're not just throwing money that's losing money for them. They're on charging the customers, and yeah, it's not got to a point where people aren't tuning in. It's still affordable enough, I guess. I
do hear from people in the UK though who complain about how much they pay for Sky and how they end up cancelling their subscriptions, and they'll watch games at the pub, or they'll go down and watch the live games and that sort of thing instead. So I do wonder if there will be a point where they're charging too much for the regular fan to afford it, in a similar way to ticket prices to actually go to games. But yeah, I mean, you make the point that it is the global brand is sort of carrying it, but I don't know. It does seem a bit crazy with the amount of money flying around these days that it's still sustainable, but we'll see how that goes.
I think as well, having teams like West Ham, Leicester, and Tottenham up there this year as well around the world increases that. Like, you're not getting like it was in the 90s where you're either an Arsenal or Man U supporter. And that was it. That's all, you know, people knew from the FIFA games and who was winning all the time. Now I think, yeah, people are getting a bit more choice in things, and yeah, that can only probably help, I guess, the Premier League just get that attention around the world. But yeah, I'm not sure how China's going to sustain this, paying, you know, okay players. Like Rooney in his peak was a great player, but £500,000 a week for Wayne Rooney now, that's not sustainable.
Yeah, and I think we touched on this the other week. We touched on it the other week, that if these clubs then go out next year and want to buy the next new thing, whether they have the money to do that or whether they have to shift the Wayne Rooneys and the Nikita Sieloviches and the Jackson Martinez's and so on, who are on huge wages, who will suddenly turn around to them and say, well, nah, hang on, I don't want to leave. You know, I'm pretty happy earning my £200,000 a week or whatever it is, and whether they can afford to just keep buying more and more players.
Well, I think someone posted on the for them. They can. I think there's some clauses in contracts over there that they can cut them pretty quickly, and I think that's what happened to Cahill.
Right.
So yeah, I think they're getting this money, but I don't think there's much security in these contracts as well. So yeah, they do probably just flick them to the side and hope someone else comes in for them. But yeah, who knows? It's a very dark and murky water sort of area, I think, that Chinese league at the moment.
Well, we should get back to the games because we've been a bit sidetracked. And the only other game that I really wanted to touch on, well, there's two games, I suppose, is first of all the Manchester City and Norwich game, because it effectively ruled Manchester City out of the title race. And it's become a bit of a trend for them all season, and even last season, really, where going away from home, they really sort of struggle to have any sort of impact. And you just look from week to week. I mean, the previous week they beat Aston Villa 4-0 at home, and then go away to Norwich, who are defensively not much better than Aston Villa, and they couldn't score a goal. Then obviously this morning in the Champions League, they've had both of their centre-backs in Company, and also, was it Otamendi got injured?
Yep.
So it's a bit of a worrying sign for them, though they are through to the quarterfinals of the Champions League. But where are Manchester City at, in your guys' opinions, Cooksen?
They're still the little brothers in Manchester. They're still arguably, I would say, a small club.
Shots fired.
Well, let's think about it. I mean, the two titles they've won, they got lucky twice. I mean, United choked uncharacteristically, and Gerrard slipped on his ass. And they just lack a certain mentality. They're not mentally good enough. And that's going to be Pep's biggest issue, is that he needs to get these players.
I think Pep
he needs to give them fight, because it's just, apart from Company and some of their fullbacks, they just lack a bit of character. They're just like rice. They're just bland.
Yes. JD, what are your thoughts?
I definitely think that there's just there is a bit of a weakness about them, especially in Europe. Like, they're in the quarterfinals now, but nobody actually thinks they can win it, do they? I definitely don't think they can.
I don't think anyone
win
thinks
the Champions League.
I don't think anyone thinks anyone can win it except Barca.
I can think of a couple that could possibly cause an upset against them.
But it's Barca's.
I can't see Man City. Yeah, but I can't see Man City beating Juve, Bayern, Atletico, or Barca. So even if Barca got knocked out, I can still see them being no chance against three other teams. So, yeah, there's just something that's always that they've never kind of got right. Even when they were winning league titles, like they were dominant domestically, but you never looked at them and thought they could do anything in Europe.
I do think that despite probably meaning it half as a troll, I do think that Cooksen is right in that it's their mentality that they're still not used to being a big club. That it's only been, 8 years now or 7 years now since the takeover, and I don't think they're used to winning, and they're not used to competing at this high level. So when they come up against those Juves and so on, that they don't have the right mentality when they play them.
Yeah, I think as well, like, he's a great player, Yaya Toure, but you got to kind of question what sort of influence he has on them. All that prima donna stuff with birthday cakes, and you just see him in certain games not tracking back, and you really wonder if he's the sort of guy that could be a bit of a disruption when things aren't going, when they're not running over a Norwich or a Bournemouth. Like, he's great in those games, but when he's up against people of his calibre, how does he go then? I think there's just something about that midfield that
he represents that club. He really does. I mean, capable of turning it on with brilliance. But...
Yeah.
Yeah, there's just something like you're saying, like, Silva's great, Aguero's great, Company's great, even Joe Hart's like pretty, a good goalkeeper, but you just know that midfield's going to be overrun and he's the linchpin of it. So I think a lot of it, surely, like a lot of that missingness about them, has got to, if that was Pogba or Vidal instead of him in that midfield, would that be the missing link?
I'll tell you what, if they go out and get Pogba in the summer to replace him.
Yeah,
they won't. Pogba won't.
You sure?
Loves United too much.
But didn't Pogba come out and say that he wanted to play for Guardiola? Because Guardiola gets the best out of players?
I don't know, but
I'm not too sure.
I reckon Real Madrid and Barcelona would want him first.
That'd be quite an interesting transfer if he does go there after. Did he leave on a free? From United?
Might have done.
Oh, it was like 500k or something like that.
So yeah, effectively a free. But I think he'll be in the Premier League next year, whether it's City or Chelsea. Because it looks like Conte is off to Chelsea, so he'll be obviously looking at Pogba, knows him pretty well.
No, I think Gundogan is probably going to City.
Who?
Which means hopefully United can get Ukale.
Oh yeah.
Gundogan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, just on Pogba, talking to Sky, he said Guardiola's the sort of manager. But I'm a Juventus player for now, but for sure when there is a coach like him, he will coach you and you'll become better. So I think that's a pretty big come get me sort of.
Come get me, yeah. Yeah, and City have the money. They're a chance to maybe miss out on the Champions League, so they're going to want to spend in the summer. So who knows? That could be a world record breaking move, I guess.
Could be a bit of tug of war between City and Chelsea, really, because if Conte is going to Chelsea, he was the Juve manager, wasn't he?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was at some point. Yeah.
I still think he would go to Barcelona first, or Real Madrid, because they're sacking apparently Isco and James will be out the door.
Yeah, James would be a pretty good pickup for pretty much any club.
They're talking about him and Hazard ironically swapping shirts after that's what he's in trouble for. But I think that'd be a massive win for Chelsea.
Yeah.
He looks the type of player that wouldn't mind the Premier League. He doesn't look like a flaky sort of attacking mid. He'll handle it pretty well. So I think with all these sides, like with Leicester and Tottenham, pretty much got top four, and I think West Ham are a pretty good chance. These sides that should be up there, they're going to want to spend really big, I guess, this summer.
Really
a lot of them with new managers.
Which is really ironic because, of course, the lesson of Leicester is that you don't necessarily have to spend big. It's more about the style of player that you bring in, the calibre of player.
Yeah.
You can
spend big, but you can't waste the money like United have.
Yeah.
I would debate we've actually spent the money quite well. It's just all playing from football to accompany the goal. Counter-attacking football is better than possession football.
The amount of money that you spent on Shaw, though, what was it, 30 million for Shaw? There are better left-backs available for a fraction of that price.
He's the best left-back in the world, according to some.
You look at how much we spent on
Shaw
Andrew.
Will be a 12-year investment.
Yeah,
12-year investment.
But we spent 2.5 million on Andrew Robertson, who's now being sniffed around by those bigger clubs, and 2.5 million at 20 years of age. He's also a 12-year investment if he wanted to stay at the club, or if we sell him, we'll get a huge fee for him. So it's not as if these younger players of quality aren't out there for a cheap price. It's just whether United are lazy enough to just wait till they go to a Southampton or a Hull or whoever first, watch them develop, and then buy them for 30 million.
That's exactly it, isn't it? They're being linked to Bertrand.
Yeah, but if you've been scouting him for a few years, then why not buy him when he's going to be a lot cheaper than 30 million? Because it just seems like such a large amount of money to spend on a 19-year-old left back.
Yeah.
Well, even when they've tried to get a bargain like Darmian, I don't know what they spend on him, 12, 14 mil? It might have been less.
8 million.
8 million. So even when they are going for those mid-range sort of signings. I'm not sure who's in charge of the scouting there, but he hasn't really looked like.
He looked pretty good at the start
started
of the
out
season, from
well.
memory. Yeah.
Yeah.
How much did you
Yeah,
spend on?
I guess first season.
How much did you spend on
37
Schneiderlin?
looked like trash. Schneiderlin was 25,
So that's
which is
all right.
standard midfield
Yeah,
price, really.
Yeah. Well, I guess I don't know. I guess
And
the point
then-
is that you look at Leicester and you look at just how much of a gem Kante's been, how much of a gem Mahrez has been. These guys were pretty much pocket change for a club like United, and they would have improved a side like United if they were in that side this year.
Yeah, but how much of
Well,
that is down to United's
the
players being
managers.
out of form,
Yeah.
managers?
Yeah. Yeah, I think Kante wouldn't be playing as good as he would for Van Gaal as he is Ranieri.
And that's probably
I don't
down
think-
to there is that side of it as well.
But yeah, these sides aren't going to. I think they've kind of not so much wasted the money. Like Schneiderlin's, been a good player this season, but that's what he is. He's a good player. I don't think they're going to go for good players anymore. They're going to have to go for your likes of Pogba, Isco, James. Just signing these good Premier League players from Southampton or even from Spurs isn't working for them, and the same goes for Liverpool. And they're going to have to really, I think, make some statements with some great signings.
Who's the most expensive?
Already made one already.
Who's the most expensive player in your 11 at the moment, JD? Would it be Lloris or Lamella or Ericsson?
No, Lamella's the record signing.
So how much was he?
He's 25, going up to 30 if he. I don't know what targets he had to meet, but 25 to 30 mil. And we were kind of held to ransom on that because we had just sold Bale. And he was the last one we got in.
How much was
And it was
Son?
Monday as well.
How much was Son?
He was a bit. He was
he was-
about 18 or 20 mil.
So I guess it's quite interesting because you look at Spurs and you look at the main players in that 11 who've had the most impact this season, and it's again similar to Leicester. It's these younger guys with hunger and passion who are a bit cheaper, who have something to prove, rather than overpriced guys like Soldado or Paulinho or those guys.
I think we got in that guy from Southampton, the chief scout guy that.
Yeah.
I can't something Paul Mitchell.
He had his black. Was it the black broom? Or
Yeah,
something?
the black box. So if you look at the signings, they all tend to make sense. Son and Lamella are both, harassing sort of wingers. They're not going to be, the best in the league or best in the world, but they do their job as, what Pochettino needs. And then, at the back, like Alderweireld, he was kind of a no-brainer. We're crying out for a right-sided centre-back, and Southampton had one on loan who was close to one of the best in the league last season. So, I just don't know what the big clubs are thinking not signing him. Like Arsenal need good centre-backs, just didn't care to look. United's got Smalling, but I wouldn't say that any of the rest are even close.
They're all injured.
They're all injured.
Yeah, but even at their best, Phil Jones, he couldn't tie Alderweireld's shoelaces up, and Rojo probably the same.
Would you trust Phil Jones to tie shoelaces? He'll probably break
No,
his nose.
exactly. So these clubs could have easily afforded the 11 mil that we spent, and same with Liverpool.
Yeah, Chelsea as well.
I know. They spent it on Lovren and then some, I think, the season before. And Chelsea.
Going up to Stones and then didn't get Stones, so they signed some guy from France who never played.
Yeah, it's just weird how their minds work, I guess.
It almost feels like those clubs.
United,
Sorry?
we didn't spend enough money during Fergie's last few years.
Well, yeah, that's the big criticism of Fergie, is that he kind of went short term.
We replaced... No, he didn't go short term. We just went weird term. We replaced Ronaldo with Valencia, a French guy for £3 million, And that's it. When we could have gotten Robin and Schneider in.
Yeah, I think he just wanted to finish on a high. He didn't like he's around the club now, but he didn't care 5 years down the track. It looked like.
Yeah, the Van Persie signing typifies that.
And you know what, like
it was a 2 or 3 year
Van
purchase.
Persie was worth it.
Oh, he was worth
as
it
much
'cause
as
he got you that
it's
title.
as much as it's they're disappointed with it now. They can't really point too much of a finger at the blame at Ferguson for thinking short term and only winning his title 4 years ago. You know that is a title, so
But
you can't really.
Fergie left signings, like quite a lot of them lined up, like Herrera. Shaw was pretty much done when Fergie was done. Were all but sealed. He left Herrera, Ezekiel Garay, Kevin Stroitman.
Yeah, but some of them also failed. Like I think
And
he
bought
left Zaha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Zaha was more of a risky, typical Fergie signing, like buy a young player, see what happens. But unfortunately, we had David Moyes who couldn't decide between anything or anything and had to scout a player like Tony Kroos 50 times to think, he's pretty good.
That's probably why he doesn't have. He's not working anywhere at the moment,
No,
is he?
he's drifted.
No.
It's a bit unsure where he's going to go next because with Newcastle getting Benitez, which we should also briefly chat about because I want
Apparently he's going to Celtic.
Who, Moyes?
Yeah.
That would be interesting. That'd work.
I could find a way to lose that league title.
But I did want to chat about quickly the Newcastle-Leicester game. Firstly, for the Okazaki overhead goal to secure the win for them, but also with Benitez returning to the league and what impact we think that'll have on Newcastle. Just get things back on track a little bit. We've been a bit sidetracked there talking about signings, but did either of you guys catch the Leicester game, and what did you make of that one?
I saw the highlights of it. I didn't watch the midweek ones, but yeah, I thought they looked a bit flat and might have been a chance for them to drop points, but it was a great goal and they got the win. Newcastle didn't really offer a heap, and I'm not too sure with 8 games to go or 9 games for them what a manager like Benitez can do for them.
It's a big derby coming up against Sunderland, which we'll chat about in a second.
They need to beat Sunderland.
Yeah.
They beat Sunderland, I reckon Sunderland goes down. They need pretty much...
The loser of that.
What do you think it means?
That's in big trouble.
If Newcastle stay up, what kind of impact do you think Benitez can have on them next season, Cooksen?
They'll be defensively more secure.
But could you
That's a
see them
guarantee.
finishing top half?
Probably not. But I reckon Benitez will ship out a lot of average players and bring in some good players. And probably build the team really around Perez and Wijnaldum.
So, yeah. Be interesting to see how Newcastle go. I do hope they stay up because it would be great to see Benitez managing in the league when you have, Guardiola, Mourinho, Wenger, Conte, Klopp, all in the same league. Be very, very interesting. We also had FA Cup games on at the same time, and probably the... Well, I guess 3 of the results are all pretty standout results. Had Everton getting up over Chelsea with 2 Lukaku goals, the first of which was an absolute cracker. Also, Watford upsetting Arsenal, which was sweet revenge after what they did to my mob midweek. And then West Ham drawing with United. Cookie, do you reckon you guys will be able to get up in the second leg, or West Ham at home probably a bit too strong?
No, I would probably lose it.
Probably your last hope at a bit of silverware this season, given that you're 2-0 down to Liverpool.
No, I reckon we can beat Liverpool.
I guess because that second leg's at home, isn't it?
Yeah. Just go all out attack. Rashford to get like 5.
Pyatt's free kick goal. Thoughts on that one?
Should have been sent off.
Was that before or after the goal?
It was before the goal.
Okay.
Atkinson bottled it. It was either a penalty or a dive, and it wasn't a penalty, so it's clearly a dive. But he was a terrible referee in that game. Just generally shit.
And then obviously with Lukaku's goal against Chelsea, have you guys both seen that one?
Yeah, that was a really good goal, and he likes to. He would have enjoyed that against the club that sent him on his way.
I think that was his first 2 goals against them. I think he'd had a bit of trouble scoring against them before then.
Well, he wouldn't have played against them too often because he was on loan for a few of those seasons. But yeah, that would have been a nice, sweet goal for him. And I think I saw something today it might have been yesterday on Facebook where it compared all the strikers Chelsea have brought in since they've loaned him out and the amount of goals he's scored since being loaned out and sold. And yeah, just crazy.
And then we've got...
It's also weird because we had Diego Costa doing the weird...
Oh, yeah.
When it was Suarez.
Yeah. Do we think Costa... When's that hearing for Costa? Because I assume they're going to call him up on it, and he might get a pretty lengthy ban for it. Although Barron's come out and said that he wasn't bidden.
He's surely got to get a 3-4 game ban for that.
It's just really weird.
Yeah.
Costa's a weird guy, so...
We've had the semi-final draw. I think that was this morning, or it was yesterday morning, and we've got Crystal Palace up against Watford, which means that one of those sides will be in the FA Cup final. And it's been this decade so far has been pretty good on the smaller clubs, especially the last 3 years now. So it'll be good to see one of them in the final, and then Everton up against either United or West Ham. So with those sides that are left, who do you guys see winning the FA Cup from here?
I think Palace are in some terrible at the moment, so I think Watford will get through, and I think they'll get up. Dean and Gallo have started to go off the boil a little bit, but an FA Cup final, I think those two up front will cause some troubles. Just really depends who gets through from the other side, I guess. Whoever's going to be in it, it's going to be a great day for their fans. Watford technically a London club as well, so there's a good chance there'll be 3 London clubs in the semis, and Everton, who I'm not sure when the last time they made a cup final. So
was it 2008 or something against Chelsea, I think, from memory. I don't know if it was 2008.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I do remember Cahill being in one at one point.
Yeah,
but
that's what I'm thinking of. And there was that one where Yukio scored after like 2 minutes.
I think if it is an all London final, West Ham versus Palace, it'll probably be one of the best atmospheres the new Wembley's had. Those kind of clubs that the success doesn't come around as much tend to appreciate a lot more, and West Ham supporters will go absolutely nuts if they make the final, and Palace go nuts every single Saturday nearly. So that'll be quite a final. That would be the final I'm hoping for, but I think it'll be Watford Everton.
Well, Watford's only ever made the FA Cup final once before, and that was against Everton, and I think they lost that one. So that would certainly be an interesting final. I think any of those combinations would be quite interesting. So unfortunately, I am hoping that West Ham get up over United. But speaking of Everton, we'll probably jump into the previews now to start rounding things up. And the early game is an absolute cracker between Everton and Arsenal. And you would think that if Everton can win this one, that would pretty much rule Arsenal out of the title race as well. And I could see Everton doing it. So what are your thoughts on that one, Cookie?
Arsenal are terrible away from home. They're mentally weak, so Everton to win.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the sort of game where Lukaku can just tear Arsenal's backline to shreds. But then again, Everton concede goals quite easily too, so it could be a 3-3, like a high-scoring draw. But even a draw will rule Arsenal out.
Yeah, I think Everton will probably get up in that one at home, but I agree. I think Everton's defence isn't too great, so I think it could be 3-1 or 3-2, something like that. Chelsea at home to West Ham's a pretty interesting one because both sides are in pretty decent form at the moment. You'd think if West Ham get up in that one that it'd be almost impossible for Chelsea to make the European spots. But then Chelsea at home have been pretty good under hitting. So what's your take on that one, JD?
Yeah, that's another, like we were saying, the first game's probably the pick of the bunch, but that's another great game. Yeah, it's always hard to not pick Chelsea at home, so I think they'll win in a close one. But yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if West Ham got a point out of that.
I reckon West Ham to win.
Yeah, I think Pyatt especially is just in some pretty outstanding form at the moment. So maybe they'll edge it 2-1 or something like that.
And still not a chance to go to the Euros. I told you about how good France will be.
Yeah, they've got a pretty outstanding team at the moment. Crystal Palace at home to Leicester. I mean, all the games this weekend seem to be pretty high quality. Palace obviously in some pretty shoddy form. I still don't think they've won a game in the league for 2016, though that could be wrong. But obviously Leicester, great chance for them if they can win that one to really sort of 7 games left if they can get through that one and just one step closer.
Yeah, I can't see them losing that or drawing. Palace are in shocking form. I don't think they mightn't have won a league game, I think, since Adebayor joined. Not 100% on that, but I think it's something like that.
They hadn't won a league game in 2016, so that sounds about right.
Yeah, so they're almost in that relegation battle. Just like they're if they don't start picking up points soon, they could get dragged into it. So I know they've got the FA Cup to focus on, but they really got to start just edging up to probably 36 points, 37 to be safe. Hopefully it's with 3 points this week.
I reckon 1-1 draw.
Yeah, I mean, Leicester dropped points against West Brom, who I know Palace under Pardew play a sort of different style to how they did it under Pulis, but they've still got those sort of harder-bodied players in the side. So if there was one of these lower sides to cause Leicester a bit of trouble, I think it would be Palace. But at the same time, I don't know. I still think Leicester will get through it. They just seem to be getting all those jammy results at the moment. The 1-0s against sides, and then they kind of set up shop and it gets them through. So I'll probably see them getting through that one. Watford against Stoke is more of a mid-table nothing match at this stage of the season. I mean, neither side really has much to play for. Stoke maybe can still push for a European spot, but it'd be a very outside chance. Stoke to win that one?
Yeah, I guess probably Watford. They're the home side, so yeah, Stoke. Yeah, I would say they probably are just about on par for where they'd want to be this season. But next season they'd want to be pushing at least for that 7th or 8th spot a bit harder. And these, guys like Bojan and that should be playing in Europe. So yeah, it's kind of petering out again into another Stoke sort of season. Safe, not in the relegation battle, but not really doing much.
They're starting to build a very good squad though, so I think, like you say, next season should be their season where they have a West Ham sort of season and really push up the challenge for that top 4 spot.
Yeah, definitely. That last signing they got, Imbula, he looks like he'll, with a full season, yeah, that's another great signing. They've made the flashy sort of winger type ones, but now they've got a beast of a midfielder. Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me if they do have a big season next year.
Probably feeling Stoke.
Fair enough. And Norwich away to West Brom. I mean, Norwich don't really have a whole lot going for them at the moment. They've been dropping points left, right and centre, but they did get a decent draw with City last time out. If they were to win this one, it does really bring Palace and even Swansea back into the relegation battle like you were saying, JD. So with West Brom not really having much to play for, this is a game that Norwich really have to target as a win.
I think West Brom will probably win. I mean, there's still a chance to finish above Chelsea, so that's always a bit of a motivator.
Yeah, that's a fair
Could
point.
be a motivator. Are they keep in touch with Liverpool?
Yeah, I don't think Norwich are good enough really to do it. Like West Ham, West Brom, Pulis at home. It's not going to be an easy one for them. So they'll need their points, I think, elsewhere. I can't see it being this week.
And speaking of Swansea, I mean, they've got a pretty routine game at home against Villa. I mean, I think it was Remy Gard came out last week and said that Villa could still stay up if they started winning games now. But and obviously Swansea would be a great springboard to do that. But even so, the players they've given up. It's not. Leicester last year was still playing good football, even when they were losing games. So you always felt that the results.
They're terrible.
Yeah.
It was pretty much a training drill for us. That 2-0. The fans have turned on them. The players, no one really. Normally see the bottom team, maybe 2 or 3 if it's a bad team, 2 or 3 guys busting their ass. But at Aston Villa, you don't even see that. You see maybe the keeper make a few saves, but you wouldn't really say, he's busting it for the badge. They're down, and Swansea's in some good form at the moment. So I think this will be their win to get them away from it.
Yeah, I'm probably feeling Swansea to win because Villa are just again, we've probably said it all season, they're just a terrible football team.
And then we've got a pretty big night of football on the Sunday night. The early game being Sunderland up against Newcastle. It's at home for Newcastle. We've already touched on it a little bit, where basically the winner of this game, huge repercussions for the loser. For once, it's Newcastle with the new boss. Normally, it's Sunderland who'll sack their manager before this game. Newcastle maybe to edge this one. I mean, Sunderland haven't been in terrible form. They got a win against United a few weeks ago.
That's not saying too much.
I'm feeling Newcastle probably the win 1-0.
1-0?
Yeah,
there will be a lot of red cards.
You'd think it'd be you'd look at it and say a draw, just because they're both. You don't want to back either of them. No, neither of them fill you with confidence, but these don't tend to be draws. I've got a feeling that Newcastle will get Benitez's first win and probably make a bit of a statement with like a 3 or 4-0 win. Maybe Mitrovic or Wijnaldum with a hat trick and go on a bit of a run from here and push away and probably send Sunderland down. Which nothing will make them happier than doing that. But it'd be sad to see Sunderland go down as well. I think the league's better having both those two sides in it. It's always fun to watch them kind of self-implode every season and just survive. It's like a little soap opera.
An easy 6 points for us when we were in the league, so it'd be nice to keep them up there if we get back up.
Yeah.
Oh well. At the same time, we've got Southampton up against Liverpool, so another derby of sorts with the amount of Southampton players at Liverpool. Liverpool still maybe pushing for an European spot, same as Southampton, so maybe a big game for both of them. They're both level on points, only 3 points behind United. So depending on what goes on elsewhere that night, one of them could be level or ahead of United. How do you see it, Cookie?
I see Southampton winning 2-0.
Right, okay. Liverpool are in pretty decent form at the moment.
Yeah, but they're Liverpool, so...
I think after playing United a few days earlier, it might be a bit hard for Liverpool for that to go again in another tough game. Southampton's not doing too bad at the moment.
And then obviously the big one, we've got the Manchester Derby, which could have pretty big repercussions for City if they can't get the win in that one, because if West Ham do manage to get up over Chelsea and City do lose that game, then obviously West Ham will jump up into the top four. These games are always pretty, well, they're usually good affairs. I think we had a couple of more boring ones lately, but there've been some pretty cracking games in the past. So what are your thoughts on it, Cooksen?
With Otamendi and company being injured, that's a massive, well, it gives an advantage to United. But again, Aguero does like scoring against United, so he's probably bound to score a goal. The issue is, can United score a goal? And I think we probably will. We might sneak away a win, but there's a very high chance that this game will be a 0-0.
It feels like the sort of game that Mata generally scores in. He generally bobs up in these sorts of games and gets a decent goal.
Yeah, but I think he's suspended.
Oh, is he? Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, no, he's not suspended.
Oh,
no,
okay.
he's not. It's West Ham was suspended for.
Yeah, it seems like the sort of game where he'll bob up and get a goal for United. So hopefully there's a few goals in this one.
Don't hold your breath.
Yeah, I won't be holding my breath. And then the final game of the round, obviously, we've got Spurs at home to Bournemouth. And depending on what's happened with Leicester the previous night, it'll be pretty good in a way, won't it, to be playing this the next night, because you'll know what you need to do, you know. Obviously, you have to just keep on winning, but if Leicester slip up, then there's that extra bit of motivation that you can close that gap.
Yeah, I kind of see it the other way. I think playing before them takes a bit of that pressure off. I know when they dropped points at what was it, West Brom, the next day we could have gone, I think, equal top, and that's when we faltered. So yeah, if they win, they go 8 points above us going into this game. So yeah, the players are probably going to play a bit more on edge than they need to. There's still 7 more games after that to worry about it, and then, like you say, if they do lose, it gives us that chance and to close the gap again. But yeah, I just don't see the point in, I don't know, putting too much pressure all on the 31st game. It's just a recipe for disaster of overthinking a home game against Bournemouth. Not saying it'll be an easy game against them. I just don't think, we need to look at Leicester and see what they're doing and put extra on what we need to do that week. We just need to do what we set out to do against each team now. And if they do drop points, they do drop points. But yeah, this is a must win already. So don't see the point in. I hope the team doesn't see the point in making it even more of a must win if Leicester do whatever they do the day before.
Have you seen any signs?
Because that's when we tend to.
Have you seen any signs of stress in the players yet?
I didn't see too much of the West like that in the West Ham game. That was just a real nightmare of a night. It was bucketing down with rain. We lost to an early corner. Didn't play well, but we only lost 1-0 still. So I wouldn't say we've really capitulated and felt that pressure yet. We did in Dortmund, but I'd say that was pretty much a reserve team that played that night. So yeah, so far not so much. But it is Tottenham, so I have to kind of have that negative tinge to it that I don't want us to overburden ourselves with these games just yet. If we win the next 8 games, there's a good chance we still won't win the league. So
yeah,
that's where it is. If we get 24 points from here, Leicester only need to get 20 to win it. And I think I had a bit of a look around now to see who they've got, and at worst, I've got them getting 16 points from here. So, yeah, it just is what it is. I think, Bournemouth are in some good form at the moment. They're probably safe. But at home, we should beat them.
Cookie, do you reckon they'll get the win?
Yeah, Tottenham 3-0.
Pretty straightforward. Well, thanks very much for coming on, boys. I know we got a bit sidetracked at times with discussion, but it was all interesting. So thanks for both being here.
No worries.
No worries.
Thanks for having us.
And thanks everyone for listening in. I know we missed a week somewhere in there, so it's been a bit over a week since our last podcast, so thanks for tuning in. And until next time, we'll see you on the forums.